You pulled up planning to order a burger. Just a burger, maybe a drink. By the time you're driving away, you've somehow got a large fries you didn't plan on, a drink 2 sizes bigger than you meant to get, and a dessert you didn't even know was on the menu until 30 seconds ago. If you've ever wondered how that keeps happening, here's the uncomfortable answer. It's not a coincidence. It's not weak willpower. It's a menu, a counter, and a drive-thru speaker box that were all engineered, individually and together, to make exactly that outcome the most likely one. Let's start with the menu board itself, because this is where the psychology begins, before you've said a single word to anyone. Menus at most fast food chains aren't laid out randomly. Certain items get placed in specific zones, often at the top right or dead center of the board, spots that research on visual attention has shown draw the eye first and hold it longest. Those prime positions are almost never filled with the cheapest items on the menu. They're filled with the highest margin combos, the ones the company makes the most profit on per sale, positioned exactly where your eyes land before you've had time to actually read the whole board. Here's a curiosity gap worth sitting with. Why does almost every menu board group items into combos instead of just listing everything separately with its own price? Because a combo does something clever to your brain that individual pricing doesn't. When you see a burger for $5, fries for $3, and a drink for $2, adding them up feels like a series of decisions, 3 separate little costs stacking on top of each other. But bundle them into one combo for $9, and suddenly it's a single decision instead of 3, and it comes wrapped in the feeling of a discount, even in cases where the bundled price barely differs from what the items would have cost separately. Researchers who study pricing call this bundling, and it works because a single bundled number is easier for your brain to accept than the discomfort of watching 3 small charges add up in front of you. Now let's talk about the upsell script, because this one is so common you've probably stopped even noticing it happens. Would you like to make that a large for just 50 cents more? That phrase, or some close variation of it, has been refined and tested extensively, and it's built around a specific psychological trick called anchoring the size of the ask. 50 cents sounds small. It sounds almost silly to say no to. What it's quietly hiding is that 50 cents for a size upgrade is often an enormous markup relative to the actual cost of a bit more soda syrup and ice, meaning that small, easy yes is disproportionately profitable for the business asking it, precisely because it's been engineered to feel too small to bother declining. Let's talk about the drive-thru specifically, because the psychology shifts once you're not physically standing in front of a menu board anymore. Speaking your order into a speaker, often with a bit of static and a person prompting you quickly, creates something researchers call decision pressure, a mild sense of needing to answer fast rather than deliberate. That time pressure works in the restaurant's favor because a rushed decision defaults more easily to whatever's suggested rather than what was carefully planned in advance. This is also exactly why the person taking your order is often trained, sometimes with a literal script, to immediately follow your order with a suggestive upsell, one more item proposed at the exact moment you're least likely to pause and think it through. There's also the sensory layer, which starts working on you before you've even ordered anything. The smell released near drive-thru lanes and restaurant entrances isn't accidental either. Fast food chains have specifically engineered scent, sometimes piped through ventilation systems positioned to reach the parking lot or drive-thru line, because scent triggers hunger and craving faster and more directly than almost any other sense. You don't consciously decide to feel hungrier standing in that line. Your body reacts to the smell before your conscious brain has caught up, and a hungrier customer orders more, almost every time, without realizing hunger was the thing actually driving the decision rather than genuine want. Let's talk about the packaging itself for a second, because even this has been quietly optimized. Portion sizes across the fast food industry have grown significantly over the decades, and a lot of that growth tracks not with what customers were asking for, but with what made combos feel like a bigger, more satisfying deal without dramatically increasing costs to produce. A slightly bigger cup, a slightly bigger box of fries, these create a strong perceived value signal, the sense that you're getting more for your money, even when the actual cost difference to the company producing it is small. But the strategy doesn't stop after you place your order. It continues until the moment you leave. Look at the pictures on the menu. They always look fresh. The burger looks bigger than real life. The cheese looks perfectly melted. The fries look hot and crispy. Those images are carefully designed. They make your brain imagine the taste. And once you imagine it, you want it. That's called visual appetite. Your eyes start the craving before your stomach does. Color also plays a huge role. Notice how many fast food restaurants use red and yellow. That's not just for branding. Red grabs your attention. Yellow feels warm and cheerful. Together, they create excitement. They encourage quick decisions. That's exactly what fast food restaurants want. Even the lighting is planned. Bright lights make food look fresh. They also keep the restaurant feeling energetic. Everything is designed to keep you moving. Fast service means more customers. More customers mean more sales. Listen carefully the next time you order. Employees rarely ask open questions. Instead, they suggest specific items. Would you like fries with that? Would you like to add a cookie? Would you like to upgrade your meal? These aren't random questions. They are sales techniques. They work because saying yes is easier than making another decision. Every small yes increases your final bill, yet each one feels inexpensive. That's exactly the point. Small purchases don't feel important, but together, they add up quickly. Restaurants measure these numbers carefully. They know which suggestions work best. They test different offers every day. If one sentence sells more desserts, they keep using it. If another offer increases drink sales, it becomes the new script. Even limited time offers have a purpose. They create urgency. People fear missing out, so they buy now instead of later. The restaurant doesn't need every customer to spend a lot more. It only needs millions of customers to spend a little more. One extra dollar from each person becomes millions in extra profit. That's the power of small psychological nudges. None of this forces you to buy anything, but it quietly influences almost every decision you make. The next time you pull into a drive-thru, pay attention to every suggestion. You may realize you came for one simple meal, but the restaurant has been carefully designed to sell you much more than you ever planned to buy. There's also color to consider, and this one operates almost entirely below conscious notice. Red and yellow dominate fast food branding worldwide, and that's not a stylistic coincidence repeated by chance across dozens of unrelated companies. Color psychology research has consistently linked red with urgency and appetite stimulation, and yellow with attention-grabbing visibility and a sense of optimism or speed. Put them together in a sign, a cup, a wrapper, a wall, and you get a color combination specifically associated with hunger cues and quick decision-making, chosen deliberately by branding teams who tested plenty of alternatives before landing on the same palette nearly every major chain now shares. And then there's the limited time offer, a menu item advertised as only available for a few weeks. This does two things simultaneously. It creates urgency, a fear of missing an item that won't come back for a while, which pushes people to try something they might have otherwise skipped. And it generates a burst of trial orders and social conversation around a menu that would otherwise feel static and unchanging, which keeps people checking back in far more often than they would if the menu simply stayed the same year-round. The item itself is rarely the point. The recurring reason to come back and look is, here's the part that ties all of it together. None of these individual tricks would move the needle much on their own. A menu layout alone wouldn't do it. A single upsell line alone wouldn't do it. It's the entire sequence, working together, the prime menu placement, the bundled combo pricing, the small-sounding upsell, the drive-through time pressure, the ambient scent, the perceived value portion sizes, all stacked and layered to point in the exact same direction toward a bigger order than you originally planned, delivered quickly enough and smoothly enough that it never feels like anything was pushed on you at all. And once you understand how deliberately this entire sequence was built, you start noticing the same underlying moves show up everywhere. Food and retail intersect. The movie theater concession stand with a combo priced to make the small popcorn look like the worst option on the board. The coffee shop that asks if you want to add a pastry right as you're paying. The grocery store bakery smell hitting you the second you walk in the door. Different products, same basic blueprint, and the same simple question worth asking the next time a friendly voice through a speaker asks if you want to make that a large. Do I actually want this? Or did the system just ask at exactly the right moment to get a yes? Dressed in a color, a smell, and a 50-cent price tag specifically built to make that yes feel effortless.